Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be taking a look at Hostage Negotiator by Van Ryder Games. This is a solo playing card and dice game that sees you take the role of a hostage negotiator trying to talk down the abductor and save the hostages. So let's have a look at what you get inside the box. As you can see, there is a number of cards in the game. There's a small dashboard here. We have a rule book with about 13 pages in and a really handy quick reference on the rear. We also get some wooden meeples. And the yellow ones here play the part of the hostages. We have a red one, which is where we track the threat level posed by the abductor. And we also have a small blue speech bubble here, which is where we track the conversation points. We also get 5 custom dice here as well. And let's pop them under the close cam so you can have a look at them. The side with 5 and 6 on show these shields. The 4 side shows 2 cards. And then 1 to 3 are blank sides. Now in this base game you get 3 abductors to choose from, and each of them has a backstory which I think really adds some theme to the game, and they also have multiple major demands, so this gives some replayability to the game also. Speaking of replayability, you also have a number of different pivotal events, and only one of these enters the game, so again replayability with a different abductor, a different one of their major demands, and a different pivotal event gives you multiple playthroughs. Also in the back of the rulebook there are some kind of achievements that you can get. So for example, we've got a number of successful negotiations. There's some general achievements like consecutive victories against all 3 abductors, and then there are some special achievements against each of the different abductors. Now Hostage Negotiator does have some expansions too, so should you feel like you've played it to death, there are some alternative options as well, which give you extra abductors too. So the way this is set up is, as I mentioned, you have these conversation points around the outside, and as you try to talk down the abductor, you can earn conversation points, which allow you to spend those points on conversation cards. The conversation cards basically give you a few different things. There is the red section there, which basically what happens if you fail the dice roll. There is the blue section in the middle, which is what happens if you get 1 shield as a success on your dice roll. In this case, that reduces the threat level by 1. And there is the green section at the top, which is what happens if you get 2 successful shields on your dice roll. In this case, it reduces the threat level by 1 and gives you 1 conversation point. Now, not all cards are like this. Some cards you will see, if I can find one. Some cards you'll see here. For example, this one would give you 3 conversation points if you roll both dice. However, the red one would still give you 1 conversation point if you failed, but the cross through the speech bubble would mean that your conversation with the abductor was over, and that will be the end of that turn. You'll also see in the bottom right hand corner there is a cost to these, and this is what you spend your conversation points on. So let's talk about how you set up the game. First of all, you choose which of your abductors you want to go with. The rulebook recommends to start with Arcane Masseur as the first one. I guess it's a little bit easier to sort of learn the rules. So let's pop away these ones. It will then tell you the starting demands. In this case, there is 1 major demand, there is 1 escape demand, and there are no special rules, which is obviously why this one's a little easier. It tells you down the right hand side here that there are 7 hostages for this game, and the starting level is at threat 4. On the back of each of the card is the story or the background as to why this person had taken some hostages. Some of these stories are actually really thematic. So let's start. We have 3 major demands to choose from, so we shuffle those cards and choose one at random. We know that we need 1 escape demand, so again there are 4 escape demands. We shuffle these cards and choose 1 at random. There's also a second in command card too as well, so that if you take out the abductor and there are still hostages remaining, sometimes a second in command can step in, but we'll not use them for this demo version. So we have our abductor, we have our major demand, and we have our escape demand. Next up, we choose our 7 hostages. Just put the rest to one side, and these will stand in the hostage pool. And these are the 7 hostages that we have to try and save. And there are a number of ways you can save those. Now, if you remember from the card, it said that we start on threat level 4. So here is where we start the counter on threat level 4. The conversation counter starts here on the conversation point. Next up, we take the terror cards and we shuffle all of these cards and then choose 10 at random. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, we put the rest to one side. We then choose one of the pivotal events, again by shuffling the cards, choosing one at random. The rest are no longer needed for this game, and we put that pivotal event on the bottom of the terror deck. And they can sit quite nicely there. Next up, we've got the conversation cards. And on these conversation cards, any which have a 0 cost, you put to one side, and that is your starting hand for the game. And then the rest you basically set up according to the points cost. Some are duplicated. So this one, for example, has a cost of 1. This one is 2. This one is 2, 2, 3. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the first stage is the negotiation stage. This is the point where you get to spend as many of these cards as you like to, and there is a couple of ways you can do this. So one option is to just to pay any card, spend it to your used pool, and you can gain 1 conversation point. Another way to do it is to actually try rolling the dice and having an achievement. So for example, let's spend this first card, which is Keep Cool. If we get 1 success, we reduce the threat by 1. If we get 2 successes, we reduce the threat by 1 and add 1 conversation point. So as we can see here, the threat tracker is at 4. So anywhere between 2 and 6, we roll in 2 dice. So we've got to roll 2 dice and try to get as many successes as possible. On here, we got 1 shield, which is 1 success, and I got the symbol which has 2 cards on it. Now what I can do is, I can discard any 2 of these cards and turn that into another success. Now what I'm going to do in this instance, just to show how that works, is I'll discard, let's discard these 2 cards into the used pile. We'll turn that into a success, and that gives us 1 reduction in threat and 1 conversation point. We can then keep on going and spending as many of these cards as we want, or we can stop the conversation with the abductor at any point. What I'll do is, just to show a little bit more, is we'll do another card called Small Talk. This one we roll 2 dice again, and we got 1 success, which gives us 2 conversation points. Now I've got 2 cards left, and I've only got 3 conversation points to spend, so I think I'll hang on to these cards for the next turn. Now, what happens is the point where we spend our conversation points. Now I have 3 points to spend, and I can spend them to pick up any of these cards depending upon their cost. Now what I'll do is I'll purchase this card for 1 point, which basically lets me re-roll one of my dice. And I'll also purchase this card for 2 points, which says Just Stay Calm. As you can see, this one helps me bring down the threat level. Now the reason you want to bring down the threat level is that it gives you more dice to roll, but it also, if you get the threat level to its base level, which is the S, every time you reduce it further, you rescue one of the hostages as well. So there's reasons to keep the threat level low. So now we've spent those points. Even if you don't spend all of those points, it always gets reset back to 0. And the next phase is the terror phase. Now in the terror phase, we turn over the top card. And in this instance, this is a minor demand, water. So it says, put this card in play near the other demands. Now what I can do here is I can concede during any conversation, and I get an extra dice until the conversation ends, so that's a bit of a bonus. However, the penalty for conceding is when any threat roll is failed during this conversation, the conversation is over. So we'll put that in play, and we now move on back to the start of the conversation phase. The cards I have now are the ones from the last round and the ones I've just purchased. So we want to try and get some more conversation points to spend, and we also want to try and get the threat level down. What we'll do is we'll spend the Just Stay Calm card. I also forgot as well, these cards that were spent in the first round now go back into the deck to be purchased for the next round. So these are all 0 point cards, 0 cost cards. They can go there. So we are still in level 3, which is 2 dice, and I got 2 failures there. That means I increase the threat by 1, and also the conversation ends. So that's the end of the round. I don't have any conversation points to purchase any more cards. However, these cards are 0 cost, so come back to my hand. Then it's turn of the terror card. Again, we have another minor demand. This one is media coverage, so we can concede during any conversation, and this will take any conversation card available from the available area into your hand for free, but the penalty for conceding is +2 the threat level. So let's put that one into play, and let's carry on with the next round. So anything spent goes back into the pot. Now, what I think I'll do is I'll concede during a conversation to get an extra dice. So that means I'm up to 3 dice now. But if I fail a threat roll, then the conversation ends. Let's try and get the threat level down. So this one is the Keep Cool card again. So we roll the 3 dice this time, and I got 2 successes, which means I reduce the threat level by 1 and gain 1 conversation point. I'll carry that on by spending small talk rather. Here I got 1 success, which means I gain 2 conversation points. We'll ask what the demands are as well. I'll explain this one if it comes off. So I got 2 successes. In this case, it means I can reveal a demand and get 2 conversation points. Well, that goes up to 5. Let's reveal the major demand. Now, the major demand here in this case is our abductor wants $10 million. Now, what we can do is we can spend 4 conversation points, concede during any conversation, rescue 2 hostages, and then there's a penalty for conceding that we always roll 1 dice less at that point, and it remains in play until the abductor is eliminated. Okay, so we're sitting on 5 conversation points here. I'd quite like to get the threat down a little bit further, so we'll play another Play It Cool. 2 successes will be very nice, and we do get 2 successes. So again, we reduce the threat by 1 and increase our conversation points. Now, I'd quite like to hang on to these cards, I think, for the next turn, so we'll end the conversation there. Now, what that means is that this minor demand is now finished. It's no longer in play because we used it, and we now go to the spending point. In this instance, I want to try and save some of our hostages. Now, this card here, which costs 6 points, allows me to save 3 hostages and +2 to the threat, increase the threat level, and then end the conversation. So I think we'll try and get some hostages. Because also what happens is, if we go through the game and we use all of the terror cards and the final terror, the pivotal event, the game is over and the abductor wins. So we need to try and get those hostages out as quickly as possible. So we'll buy this one for 6 points, and now we're on to the terror phase. Now this one says, I'm growing impatient, draw and resolve the next red terror card. So whilst that one wasn't too terrible, we're burning through the terror deck now. Now the next one says to make a threat roll. If it's a shield, I save a hostage. If it's not a shield, I lose a hostage. So, luckily we've rolled a shield, we've saved one of the hostages. And you move one from the hostage pool across into the safe zone. Now we go back to the conversation. I'm only rolling 2 dice here, so I'd like to get the threat down first of all. However, none of the cards I have allow me to reduce the threat. So what I'll do is, this allows me to concede during the conversation, and I can take any conversation card here into the available area into my hand for free. However, it does increase the threat by 2. Now there is a card here that basically lets me rescue 4 hostages, and then I eliminate the abductor, which is almost kind of a game-winning scenario. But I'd quite like to do that when I've only got 4 left. So let's play this card. Oh, sorry, these ones should have come back into the deck as well. What about that one for the next turn? Let's play this card, which is Small Talk. We roll 2 dice, and I'm looking to try and get 2 shields, which I did, which means I increased by 3 conversation points. And then I think what we'll do is we'll try this major extraction. So one shield will give me 2 hostages out, but will increase the threat by 2, and it ends the conversation. Let's see if we can do a bit better than that. So we've got a shield, which would give me 1 success. I also have a card as well that we looked at before, which lets me re-roll one of my dice. So we'll do that. And that gives me a 2nd shield. That means we rescue 3 hostages. However, the threat level does go up by 2, and it ends the conversation. So we now have 3 points to spend. I will take all of my 0 cost ones. And for 3 points, I think we'll take this minor extraction card as well, which allows me to try and save some more hostages. We then flip the terror card. Situation is getting worse, so the threat goes up by 1. Now the secondary action as well is if there are any unrevealed demands, of which there is this escape demand. Let me show you the card first of all. Any unrevealed demands, which there is this escape demand, it goes up by another 1. So we're now getting very close to coming into the highest threat level, where I'm only rolling 1 dice and potentially losing some more hostages. Also spent that one too. Let's try to reduce the threat level first of all, I think. So we're rolling 2 dice. We've got 1 shield, which reduces the threat level by 1. Let's try minor extraction. We've got 1 success, which saves a hostage but increases the threat level by 1. I think what we'll do is we need to try and get some more conversation points. So, yeah, let's try that one. And we got no successes. Now, in this instance, we still get 1 conversation point, but the conversation ends. That's not the end of the world in this. So now we have 4 points to spend. I will take, let's take 2 of these cards. These basically help me to reduce threat level. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get that down now. Get some more dice. Now we're in the terror phase. Right, okay, so this one says roll a dice and add number of hostages to the pool. What I'm looking for really is either a 4, 5 or a 6. We'll only add 1 hostage to the pool. And it's a 5, so we add in an extra hostage. Yeah, so we're back to this turn now. Let's try and keep them calm and reduce the threat level. Oh, now again, we failed the roll. It actually increases the threat level, which is the worst thing that could have happened, and it ends the conversation. So I've got no points to spend. So we go straight on to the terror phase. This one again increases the threat level by 1 because there's nowhere to go. We'll lose a hostage, and if there's any unrevealed demands, of which there is, it increases it again. So again, it goes up, and we lose another hostage. So this is not great. We're back to the conversation again now. Let's try to... We need to try and keep them calm. Also, these cards go back into the pile for the next turn. We need to try and calm them down. So we're only rolling 1 dice, so there's no way we can get 2 shields. It's failed. I've killed the last hostage, and the conversation ends. Now, If there are no hostages left in the pool, you can do the following. When a hostage would be saved, the abductor surrenders and he's captured. And if the hostage should be killed, then you flip the non-pivotal event terror card into the discard pile. No effect. So it's one of these cards. I've got no points to spend. We flip one anyway because it's the end of the round. And he's getting angry. So 2. So 1, 2. We should kill 2 more hostages. So we flip a card with no effect, and we flip another card with no effect. Now we're back to the game. This one can go back into the pool. Okay, so we really need to get the threat down, try and save a hostage, which would allow us to actually win because we've saved more hostages than we've lost. So I don't want that ends the game, and I also don't want one. Let's start with this. 1 dice. Oh, let me roll it again because I think it bounced in there. So it's 0. We've actually lost a conversation point. Try another one. Oh, we've lost a conversation point. Let's try this one. Oh, again, we gain a conversation point, but the conversation's over. Nothing to spend, so it goes to 0. We flip the pivotal event. Now, pivotal event says the abductor may not be eliminated while there is at least 1 hostage in the hostage pool. Now that doesn't affect us because we don't have any hostages left there unless anything happens. Okay, so these now go back into the pool, but I can't pick them because I just spent the last turn. I'm going to just spend these 2 cards to get 2 conversation points. And I'll try and roll at 1 dice. I failed. I do get a conversation point, but the conversation ends. I can spend those 3 points. However, because there are no cards left here, the abductor basically gets away, and I've lost the game. So that's how the game works, folks. I really enjoy it. It's got a lot of replayability. You kind of see lots of opportunities to do things differently every time you play. So yeah, Hostage Negotiator by Van Ryder Games. I really enjoyed it. I'll pop a link down in the description where you can pick it up online. But first of all, check out to see if your local gaming store has it in stock. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.